what sucks? The Cowboys in free agency. All right, so I listened to Stephen Jones this morning, so you wouldn't have to. That's what we do here. And he got something wrong right away. He was talking about being on the competition committee.
Okay. Certainly am honored to be on it and humbled to be on it. And
there you go. Mm-hmm. Just wanted to point that out.
No.
He's humbled to be on the competition committee. All right, so we're talking about wide receiver. We're just talking about a lot of things. The media's with him, and we're just kicking around different topics. You might look at the wide receivers, like you got the depth chart in front of you. You might just see, boy, this is an area of need. And that's going to be a common theme when you look across the position groups of the Dallas Cowboys. You might have that in your head. And, you know, free agency is like now it's for all intents and purposes, it's over. I mean, the good stuff gets gobbled up pretty quickly. So, anyway, we're talking wide receiver.
First of all, I like our room. We added Mingo late in the year last year. I think him having a full off season to work with Dak. And as I said, we really...
Boy, that is so
I
bingo.
love it. That's 100%
we said it at the
bingo.
time.
But a full off season is a bingo of all bingos.
Yeah, and I want to be fair.
Now, how does Amari Cooper fit in with Dak? Like game 2? And they start
Right.
throwing for 100 yards a game? I don't know. Maybe because he's really good.
There may be times like I could see, I know I used that excuse when Kyrie and Lucas sucked together right after the deadline, but it made sense. It's like, look, these are two guys that are used to both having the ball. There are times in sports where it might make sense, but the budding chemistry between Dak Prescott and Jonathan Mingo is pretty far down the checklist for important things in the offseason.
Off season to work with Dak. And as I said, we really liked him when he came out of Ole Miss. And
Okay, keep that in mind, that they really liked him when he came out of Ole Miss.
I really feel like he's got a lot of upside.
Also, when someone sucks, what can you say about them?
I really feel like he's got a lot of upside.
Like this is a realtor trying to sell you this. It's
bones.
Fixer upper.
Good bones. Yeah, a lot
It's
of
homey.
Yeah, I mean, they just tell you a lot of potential in this home. The
Yeah.
location's here.
So
Which basically just means that Jonathan Mingo is like tall and has muscles.
It's just
and that he's failed.
He's never just he's failed.
No
He's
one
never
says
displayed-
Micah has upside.
There you go. Yeah.
And a scout never forgets like a positive thought on a guy.
Now-
it's like, well, Carolina, we could get the best out
Can
of
I
him.
say though, because I've written about this, I actually don't hate that, because if your front office has told you you're not going to get to scout and sign the guys who are going to make more than $10 million a year, you're left with what? You're left with the guys you drafted, and you're left with the guys that other teams drafted that you like. Now, there's definitely an ego of any sporting and talent evaluation, right? Same reason why a first-round quarterback, as long as that regime that drafted him is going to get more of a leash. But I actually don't hate the Will McClay and company move of saying, oh, shit, if they're not going to let us sign any free agents that matter, with the pennies we have left, we're just going to sign guys that we thought were really good.
Counterpoint.
It just hasn't worked yet.
I got a counterpoint.
Go ahead.
So
Malik Hooker was a high pick, wasn't he?
Yeah, but all the first-round cornerbacks they've taken flyers on.
I don't know.
My counterpoint on Mingo or somebody like that would be somebody that has gotten to the NFL and then been very bad. Like, you now have more tape on them. You now have more knowledge.
The car's worth less after you take it off the lot, for sure.
Yeah, and they certainly didn't pay a second-rounder, but you know who else thought he was pretty good? Who else's scouts? Every team. He was like he had a second-round grade on him, and he was picked in the second round. And so, yeah, every team could right now say, we really liked him coming out of the draft, or we liked him. Anyway, I'll continue.
I really feel like he's got a lot of upside. Certainly like our young guys, Fournette, and that group, obviously. Turpin
think he knows anybody in
something to the mix there in terms of his juice and explosion. So I really like our room. At the same time, obviously losing.
Yeah, we're going to look to get better. We always look to get better because that's what we do in the Dallas Cowboys. Let's go to running back talk. Think that's a lot better?
I think the two backs we signed are guys we really liked a lot. Certainly liked Devontae coming out of college.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know. I did too, but the more I think about it, or just look at it, Dowdle's deal is not that much more than Javonte Williams. Dowdle, every advanced stat you looked at, and hell, regular stat, he was successful. And it's not like he went out and broke the bank. I wonder if something happened where Dowdle's people made some huge demand for him, and the Cowboys were like, F that. And then when he went out there to try to find that deal that he thought he could get, they signed Javonte Williams to what they were going to be willing to give Dowdle. And then Dowdle found out, oh, no, nobody really thinks I'm any good. So maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, we'll
but
never
I think
know.
Dowdle's a player.
We'll never know, but you would probably rather keep the guy that's already shown a modicum of success for you.
For you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he fits in. You know that he does fit into your scheme.
Right. That one's confusing to me. It feels like they kind of got one. There's a world where they
you'll never
could've-
know because one of the two kind of messed up.
Right. Or
maybe
both even.
Maybe
Yeah.
both of them did. So, but neither side will want to admit that.
Yeah.
Devontae coming out of college, what he brings to the table, and then Sanders obviously brings that juice that we missed last year, Pollard-type juice. He's doing a great job for Tennessee now, but and certainly see us, looking in the draft and seeing, where we can bring something, a young guy.
Yeah, okay. They're going to look in the draft.
Let me tell you one of the problems here. One of the problems that they have, and I know every team does this to an extent, but it's laid bare when you look at the Cowboys roster that they are somewhat unique in this. One of the problems is they go and sign these guys, a lot of them who are basically minimum level players like Miles Sanders, fully intending to play them. And then they go into the draft and they're like, well, we don't really need a third, fourth round. Is that really going to be better than Miles Sanders? So they're never taking a stab at something with an actual higher upside because they keep signing all these veterans who suck and being like, this guy, look, he's a veteran. He's in the league. Javonte Williams and Miles Sanders both have a lot of carries. Or, they've done it at edge rusher as well at time. Like, we're just going to go grab this guy. Well, the problem is it keeps them from thinking they have a need. Like right now, they're like, look, we line up tomorrow, we could play with these running backs.
Yeah.
I mean,
no,
we're
it's
2-3 drafts
it's
now. It's
convoluted logic, and he has more convoluted logic on free agency. And the Cowboys in free agency this year.
But the key thing in free agency, which probably didn't, on hindsight, didn't do as good a job as we've done in the past.
Oh, really? Okay.
But feel like we got a lot of that done this year. It's just, getting the numbers of players, that we need to solidify our roster. So when we do get in the draft, regardless of position, if a great player's sitting there, that's when we've had our best drafts. I mean, we didn't know we were going to pick a pass rusher when we picked Micah. We didn't know we were going to pick a receiver when we ended up with CeeDee Lamb. That's, to me, what really enhances your opportunity to do special things in the draft if you have the type of free agency we feel like we had this year.
So if you have a terrible by doing nothing, it might lead us to getting lucky because if we didn't really fill any of the holes, then we're able to draft any one of these positions. That's basically what he's saying.
That's genius, yeah.
So
a lot of options on the board for you there.
Yeah, if you have a
Whole
free agent,
playbook.
like had we signed a great edge rusher, we wouldn't have drafted Micah. So, are you seeing what I'm saying here, media? We're trying to teach you guys.
I love it.
This was a funny, real short little quote, I thought.
And as I said, certainly if we can, after losing a receiver like Cooks, if we can, find another guy there to step into that receiver spot. We obviously did, I think we did address some speed there with what we did in free agency, but we just feel like we still have work to do.
Oh, you do? You feel like you still have work to do? Gosh, well, you're the only one. Most publications are saying, looks like the Cowboys are set. Don't know if they'll even need a draft pick. They might just trade all the draft picks for futures because they are locked and loaded.
I got a little bit of Jerry if you want.
Well, does Jerry relate to Micah or
no?
Okay, because I'm going to go to Micah next.
A little bit. So I'll play you one thing here real quick. Speaking of bingos, sounds like Jerry's been reading my diary here.
We've had, in my mind, I know it is, I want to be real clear, in no way am I satisfied, but I think we've won the 6 most games over the last 15 years in the We've won the 5th most games since 15. We've hung around the rim. Now, we missed some real opportunity 2 or 3 times to maybe step up there and get into the championship game and, of course, get into the Super Bowl. The reason I'm saying it that way is that's what I see when I look at what we've done in the past and what we're doing.
We're not allowed to play the audio, but one time early on in my career at the Ticket, TC and I were hired on the same day. TC was the first one to get the call up to run the board for the Musers. The Musers were attempting to take calls with TC at the board. They were unable to do so because we barely knew how to run the board, especially taking calls live. And we also didn't turn on our mics to communicate with the host that we didn't know what we were doing at the time. So when George tried to go to TC and TC couldn't pick up any calls or put them on the air, George simply remarked, "I'm looking over at TC. He looks down at the board and apparently sees nothing but good things." And I feel like Jerry's just straight up telling you the reason we don't do things differently like you think we should is because I look down at the board and I'm seeing nothing but good things. So why would that necessitate a change?
Right. That's the are you embarrassed about the sunlight coming in? Would you be embarrassed in this? I see a palace here. What are you talking about? Both teams played with that sun.
Gosh.
So, just a little bit more from Steven. This is the Micah Parsons thing that we talked about yesterday that is going to be a big story until he signs his extension. Or until they trade him. Who knows? And they asked if you're confident, Stephen Jones, that you can get Micah done.
I mean, we always have confidence when we get things done. I mean, I know some people may argue timing and when you do it. Are you early? Are you late? That's not something that's really affects us at all. We just ultimately it's
Good. Okay, cool.
We know
about the results and getting things done. Certainly, as we move forward, we'll.
Okay, see, that's funny that they say that and they tell themselves that and they believe it. Like, it doesn't affect any. I mean, as long as we get it done, as long as you get Micah in the end, you just still have Micah. As long as you get Dak in the end, you still have Dak. Really? So what if you had got Dak for $20 million a year when his agent was asking for that? Could you have done more with the money that you saved around him to add different players? Let's just keep going down the list of these contracts. Like, what you find out in today's NFL, it almost seems to me like you can't get too early on these contracts.
I agree.
Because even the bad ones that fail, you can kind of move them.
Well, and also this
or you
is the
can
thing.
kind of eat it.
This is the thing that's always driven me crazy. Is you don't hear about the benefits of the increase of the cap a lot. Like, the earlier you sign a deal, the lower the cap is during the life of that deal.
Yeah.
But so I guess what I'm saying is just that it's going to go up, so you have some relief on the back end. So why not stack the front end relief of the cap savings, and then the worry about it later part during when the cap is going to be higher. Like, you can track these things, and it seems like they never do.
Like, if you laid out the Eagles' missteps.
Oh, my gosh.
And then somehow said, yeah, but it culminated in them winning a Super Bowl.
not only winning a Super Bowl, but if you think about it, the craziest thing about the Cowboys and Eagles situation to me is one of them had to do everything you normally have to do to get a franchise quarterback, right? I don't recall what the Wentz trade was. If you could look that up, Blake, it was a lot. So they pick a quarterback
to get Wentz.
Correct.
Yeah, they had to use one of the top 2 picks in the draft.
They had to suck. They had to use one of the top 2 picks. They had to make trades. So they got that guy. They not only got that guy, he worked out well enough for them to pay that guy. They paid that guy. All the while, the only quarterback play the Cowboys have experienced comes from a compensatory 4th-round pick that, yes, they developed, but even they would say they got lucky with.
Same year, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they paid their quarterback they targeted, and then he got hurt and turned into an asshole and started to suck. And they figured out how to get back to the Super Bowl after that.
Like they still got a first-rounder out of him.
Do you know, like, screwing up the Carson Wentz contract should set you back half a decade. So they not only were aggressive, because people always talks about how aggressive they are with, they make trades, they're signing all these players. They were aggressive with Wentz when they went up to draft him, and they were aggressive with Wentz when they decided to move on from him. He would still be a Cowboy.
And when they decided to pay him, they paid him early.
Sure.
Yeah.
They traded 8 to get up to 2, plus a 3rd and 4th in that draft, next year's 1, and then the following year's 2.
That's huge.
How is it possible that in the last 9 years ago, they did that, then paid the guy, then got out of the guy, have another guy, have paid that guy, and are in the Super Bowl. And the Cowboys, in that time, have just had Dak. And at no point, like, they had cheap Dak. That didn't really work out. They've had expensive Dak. And it's, 5th most wins. But it's crazy to compare and contrast those two teams. Crazy.
And finally, this will be my only kind of Luka talk for the day, actually. Because let's give Stephen Jones his credit for saying the exact right thing when a former player leaves his team. So this is about, I think David Moore is asking him about DeMarcus Lawrence and some comments that DeMarcus Lawrence made upon leaving the Cowboys.
Or does it disappoint you at all when you hear those?
I have nothing but great respect for DeMarcus Lawrence and what he did for this franchise. He went above and beyond in terms of, I feel like when he was playing here, I know there were years he could have easily gotten surgery or those type of things, and he played through them, and he was a warrior. And I have nothing but great feelings about DeMarcus Lawrence.
No, there's never a doubt, man.
The Joneses are very good at just not. They don't air any dirty laundry on players. They don't seem to do that. This is just my message to Patrick Dumont. You might want to just start everything with we thank him for leading us to the NBA championship last year. That it ain't going to fix things. It ain't going to help the fact that you actually did give away, one of the best players in the game for pennies on the dollar. But the whole Mavs mess. One of the reasons that I've sworn off the Mavs are just because that guy still owns the team and Nico's still there. And
the way they handled
bad-mouthing,
it. It was going to be horrible in the immediate aftermath, no matter what. But I'm with you. The way that it was handled is what I'm going to remember 5 years from now. Mm-hmm. Whenever I'm thinking, oh, who knows, maybe. No, that was the deal. That's it. I'm with you. The way they handled it. And the Cowboys don't do that. I mean, heck, I'm looking at our audio. We're 3 years removed from DeMarcus Lawrence pretty much just publicly shit on Stephen Jones during one of his negotiations where he was like, oh, Stephen gave me this number. And I'm like, call your dad. And Stephen still knows, like, we don't play about stuff like that. We are the family. You know what I mean? We will welcome you back in. You're part of the brand. DeMarcus Lawrence is likely going to retire a Cowboy. So they don't fool with any of that stuff because that stuff sells. So I don't blame them for that. I do take issue with this because while I do think Jerry is like the perfect combination of an honest bullshitter. I do think he'll shoot you straight and say like really hard truths, but he's what he is. He's an oil man from Arkansas. this feels very Sent, Marshall, and Mark Cuban to me, but I don't even know why he has to say this, as now they're talking about Micah in the conversations.
The agent is not a factor here or something to worry about. And I don't know his name. And so my point is that I'm not trying to demean him in any way, but this isn't about an agent.
All right, so I'll play the rest, but why? I know the guy's name.
So
You know the guy's name. It's just a weird thing that I feel like you do when you're panicking.
Is it-
Overcompensating.